Welcome back to Real Talk for an Unreal World. My guest today is named Jacob Dodds. He's from New Zealand and he brings a wonderful energy to the show today to discuss trauma and how to overcome and how to see ourselves and the world around us as an experience to learn about each other and our feelings and to be able to talk about them. And I think that that's really important to understand the power that emotions has to shape our reality, and that if we hide from them, that we're going to hide from the world, and the world will then be created by us in a manner that does not serve us because we are not being true to our authentic selves. And authenticity and speaking our truth are two things that the world is in dire need of practicing these days. Jacob brings a wonderful story of how he overcame trauma in his life and how he was able to see it as something that helped him navigate his journey and eventually led him to do the thing that he loves. And I think it's something that we're all looking for. We're just not sure of a way to take a chance on ourselves and how to achieve that. So I think that's a really beautiful thing to share in this conversation, which is why I had him on the show. So I hope you enjoy the episode as much as I did having it. And I think it's amazing how you live your life. I mean, to me, I think I think of you often. I mean, you're just nomadic and carefree, and you're a warrior out there for the things that really truly matter that we don't seem to give too much value for, which is nature, the animals, the water, the birds, and you're injecting energy back into the earth. And I think that that's just such a noble thing to do these days. And people like you don't usually talk about it because you just do it. You're usually people of action, which I absolutely love. So I'm so grateful that we were able to meet and I was able to learn from you. But I think it's interesting to know the story of how you arrived there, because you have a story, and
Yeah.
I think there's a lot in the world today that I think people can relate to, and people are looking to kind of take this baggage of life off, all this thing that they've been led to believe is going to get them to this magical destination of retirement, and they're still not happy because they're broke. And even if they have money, this money isn't doing it for them either. They're missing this thing, and I believe that thing is freedom and the ability to take a chance on oneself. And I know you did
Mm.
that. So I commend you for being able to do that along the road. S-
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah. So but you're born in New Zealand?
Yeah, born, yeah, not too far from where I am now, in the South Island, East Coast. Some reason I keep getting drawn to the East Coast a lot as well through my life. Whether I lived in the South Island, North Island, whatever, it was often the East Coast. And I think that's the sunrise thing, because I'm such a sun body, absolutely love the sun, Yeah, a wee while ago we were having 33, 34, 35 degrees days, and I was working in it. People were hiding, and I was out there digging holes and putting in posts and pouring concrete, and I was just loving it. Like I was just like, my goodness, give me some more of this. So when I was guided to come south, I was like, oh, I wanted to go north. Like, come on, guys. But, the calling's there and there's a higher purpose. So I honor that, and I know I will be fed. Here I have an awesome fireplace. I'm looked after. The last place I was at had an awesome fireplace, beautiful dog to play with. We had actually a lot of amazing days down there as well. Here, I've had some good days, but it's been more in the single figures, kind of, 8, 9, maybe 11, 12 highs kind of thing. And I go to the beach often because it's good for me, and the sun's sometimes out and you can feel the heat of the sun, but yeah, it's a lot fresher, rugged up and I got my hat on. I mean, I've usually got my shoes off. Well, yeah, every time actually, except for once. My feet start going, what the hell? But yeah, it's so good to do.
That's the same weather as up in Canada right now. Same thing. It's been cooler like that. And it's our spring. I mean, it's our summer. We're transitioning, right? So to know we're
Mm,
having the same weather as you, it's like, really? Like we should be into this by now, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The weather's crazy now, eh? Yeah, even the flowers, things are like going, what's going on?
Yeah.
Where's the seasons?
Yeah, I got the fruit trees in the front yard actually, and they speak to me all the time. Like, I watch them, what's going on with them, and it's interesting to see like nature's always going to take care of itself. It's cool. It's got what it needs to do. It doesn't need us to do anything, but it does know more about climate changes than we do in the sense of what it's preparing to do for itself. So it's interesting to watch how they prepare for that, how they stress for that. They're just communicating in their own way as well.
Totally, totally. I mean, we are nature, so we just go and sit in nature and look and think of that web. Their roots are all down and they're just going out to each other and they're communicating. And they've done tests where they've had trees and one they just didn't give any water at all, and another one they didn't give any light, nothing at all. But all the trees were all in the same condition.
Hmm.
They were all thriving exactly the same because what they didn't have, the others fed them with
Yeah.
what they had. And they shared and helped each other out, and it's fascinating, and we're like that, we don't, sure, you're there and I'm here, but we are connected.
Mhm.
There is a network, a field of energy flowing between us, and that's how whatever you do can touch anyone anywhere in the world. So there's this massive ripple effect always happening. So it's not really about changing people. It's just about changing ourselves so that energy can be felt and help someone to change themselves.
That's something humans love to do. They love to control things that are out of their control or put energy into things that are out of their control. And it's like they wonder why nothing's happening in their life. It's like the only reality that you can change is within yourself, with the one that you see. So by being the change in the world, by becoming the change, yeah, you open up new opportunities. Like when you have a positive mindset, you attract positivity, or your intuition is heightened enough to know when something's negative and that's not good for you because that's coming into your positive energy barrier. And that's got to be created through an immense amount of work. That's why I love individuals that have overcome things in their life and live life on our own terms, because anyone can do this. I mean, that's the
Mm.
beautiful aspect about it. Like what you're doing, what I'm doing. I mean, we're doing two totally different things, but we have the same projection of what we want in life, just peace, love, connection. Like it's not some hippie dream that, is filled with LSD and peyote. It's very it's very beautiful and achievable.
Very real. It's very real and very tangible, and it's just the journey of yeah, I guess peeling back the layers and moving through those densities, and that just takes a willingness. That's really all it is. Um, it's just purely a willingness of saying, I want to create something different for myself, and that was the thing for me. From a very young age, I asked a lot of questions and I was given a hard time about that. However, it never stopped me, and to this day, I see questions super empowering because when I ask a question, I'm reflecting something about myself. I don't look at the outside circumstances. I see my response to them and what the outside circumstances are reflecting back to me for me to see within myself. And then within that questioning, I get some answers, and they're not always the answers that I thought, or they lead me in a direction where maybe if I was figuring it out or looking at it in a different way, relating in a different way, I'd go on a whole different journey. So it's just about bringing it back to myself and just seeing what's in my field and what I'm attracting in my field and where does that come from and how do I shift that to bring more light and more beauty into my world.
Yeah, I can relate with that as well. Like, 4 years ago, I was homeless, or I got out of jail homeless, yeah, and just walked away because I made a choice in my life to walk away from a 23-year drug addiction because I chose to see something else in myself. But that does not mean, it's all figured out in that moment. I self-reflect daily. Like I have a company, I have a podcast, I have many other areas of my life that I'm in, but I'm in here and I'm in my heart steady, because this to me is the greatest experiment. I am trying to use myself as an experiment for myself to see what I can become. I want to see what I can do. I want to see what I can undo in my mind and connect new experiences through emotional understanding of having new experiences with my heart, and kind of lead from my heart, because we're so often led to lead from our mind, and our mind
Mm.
creates hypotheticals and assumptions. And as soon as we get caught up in hypotheticals and assumptions, well, we're just creating scenarios that, aren't true. But we practice this philosophy of doing this, and often when people are trying to go within, they're getting blocked between that hypothetical and assumption that they're creating about, or overthinking things that are very simple. And I get that. I mean, it's a very easy thing to do these days, but anything you practice, you get good at. And I mean, I'm 4 years in. Like Jacob's had a whole run of a life, and he's still self-reflecting, because that's what it is. The journey is such a beautiful aspect when we're able to do that and tap in. And for me, man, when the results happen, when I process something, oh my gosh, like that for me is like when I see something a different way, like you were saying. It just it's the most magical thing. It's there is If people understood that value because they put the work into themselves and they were able to see that reward, you would think your paycheck is worth nothing, because it's like this kind of stuff, like processing traumas, or parts of yourself that you don't like, man, the reward in that is just an evolution of self, which is very beautiful.
Yeah, the thing with the things we don't like about ourselves, what I find is the closer we bring them to ourselves and love them, that's how they shift. Whereas the other way is to push it away, to hide it or not want to look at it. And that gets you nowhere. You just start looping, and it's in your field. So it's creating anyway, even if you're not aware of it, or you're not putting any energy into it, it's still creating something. So, those things, like one of the parts of bullying in my younger years at primary school, one of my best friends was the leader of that. And on my journey, I came to a place where it was like I actually have to embrace my ego more. So I named my ego the same name as that guy. And what it did is it shifted my relationship to what happened in those situations, and also my relationship to my ego, because I befriended it by giving it a name, but then I gave it a name with someone who had created a lot of trauma in my life. So it was kind of multi-layered all at once, and it shifted a lot of things for me, because yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but it was just befriending all of those demons and those difficult things. And the ego has a purpose, for sure. We are human beings. This is a soul-led journey here on earth, but we are human beings, and we have to honor our emotions that need to be felt and want to be expressed. And the more we befriend all of those kind of emotions, even anger is a really positive, supportive emotion when we relate to it in a different way than what we've told it is, or how we often experience it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Becoming like building a relationship with your emotions. Yeah, dude, like that's huge. Like that is huge. But that what you're saying is becoming aware to think before we react, and that's huge. And a lot of us are just programmed to be very reactive, and that's how we know our emotions, is after we've expressed the emotion. And balancing emotions is the same way we think before we speak. We just sit with it, and really allow it and observe it from many different ways before we react to, or overreact to the feeling. Yeah, uncomfortable feelings are, yeah, something we just bury. We're just so, I don't, as humans, we do not like to be uncomfortable. And especially with these magical things called emotions, which are there to teach us about experiences, about people, about ourselves. So it's like, okay, if your best friend hurts you and talks a bunch of shit about behind your back, like rather than avoid that situation, see that individual for it is, move through your anger, move through your sadness, move through your frustration, and be like, thank you to that friend for showing your true colors, so that am able to go on in my life with this education. And that's kind of how I've come to view those emotions in my life, and work that into an equation, and practice that, because man, the stability of emotions is incredibly beautiful. I like what you said though about ego. You gave ego a name that you understood, which was your best friend. But your best friend had a yin and a yang to him because he turned out he began the journey as a friend, someone you could trust and rely on. And later he showed another side, the yang, and he was the one instigating the bullying on you. So you were able to give the ego that name and kind of love it and see it from both sides, which I thought was pretty cool, like how you did that, how you were able to conceptualize that. And I think that that's a really good thing to offer people. Wow, like a lot of people try to say that they need to do away with their ego. And I'm like, and I say the same as you. No, no, it's a part of us, but it's been filled with all these learned behaviors and these things that are not good for us that we've taught it something else.
Yeah, well, I mean, when it's leading your life, it isn't healthy, that's the thing. So that's where, like you're talking about, getting into your heart. So when the heart's leading, the ego can assist you, it's there riding with you rather than when we haven't worked on these things, it's in control, which isn't in control at all. It's just chaos, it's
Yeah.
just creating dramas and issues and problems, and you're in loops and everything, so yeah, that's where the work is, to find a way of to get more still and self-reflect and sit within your body in your heart space. These are vital tools that have helped me. And the body is so much more intelligent than the mind. The mind can can't comprehend consciousness really. It just can't grasp it. The and higher mind, which is not this mind, for sure, it plays a part. It's like the Buddha. The Buddha talks about the higher mind. Jesus talks about the Christ light, which is the heart. Or Christ consciousness, oneness, unity consciousness. For me, they're all the same thing. And it's all heart driven. And for myself, I know I'm heart driven. So as a individual journeying through life from a very young age, I had a really big heart, which made me sensitive and receptible to a lot of other things. And often, uh, almost, I don't know, whether saying like it seems like you're a target because other people just throw stuff at you because you're this immense being, and actually on some level you can handle it, but at that time you're confused and lost and you don't know what that is, and you get angry and hurt and you react and do all sorts of crazy stuff, and you go off and rebel and get into addictions and abuse other people and do all this crazy journey that we often do, and then at some point you go, what is this? This isn't resonating with me. That's what happened for me anyway. It's like I don't enjoy this world. There must be something more. Okay, so what is that something? And as soon as you ask that question, you'll get assisted. The universe will go, okay, yeah. Did you hear that, guys? Righto, let's get together. Start throwing them things. Start bringing in a message here or a sign here or this person into their life.
Yeah.
And that's all you need to do. It's just ask the question and bring in an invitation of something different. And yeah, I mean, I'm very aware of signs, and I get a huge amount of signs, especially from nature and animals and birds. And there's still many I miss. That's how many there are. That's how much support we have. You know,
Hmm.
and you don't miss them. You just don't register them at that moment, but it'll come around again. It's not like, oh, whoops, okay, I won't get that again. It's not like that at all. It's just in that moment you're caught in your head or busy with whatever life or whatever, and that's okay as well. It's okay. Go, okay, well, yeah, I was just doing something else, and that's okay.
Yeah, people think with synchronicities that, like, if I don't see it, I'm not going to see it again. It's like, oh no, the universe is going to keep throwing things at you until it gets your attention. And that doesn't mean and that's even for people that are completely unaware of the synchronicities. I mean, they think it's a coincidence. People love to use that word or things like that, and that's okay to use that word, no problem. I used to use it myself before I understood the language. And um, yeah, it's really interesting. Even yeah, I mean myself, I miss things as well. I like how you said like yeah, questioning things as a young fella there that was something that people kind of give you a hard time for, but the questioning of things is also what like brought you to ask that question into the universe that was like, oh yeah, hey, we're listening to you. We'll give you the love. We'll give you the connection. We'll give you the understanding. Like this guy right here, he's asking questions. But I didn't know that about you, and me too. I did that all the time as a kid. That's why I thought school was so ridiculous, is because I just kept asking so many questions, and I was always loud and just like everyone knew me in the class because I was the guy asking questions all the time, and the teachers were kind of just sick of it. Like, just freaking do what's on the board, man. You know what I mean? But I couldn't grasp that. It wasn't enough for me. It was like, no, this is not enough. And that's a great place for people to become. That's another wonderful observation. Like I love how you said that. Question everything, so much so that it leads you to question the universe and say, okay, hey, if you're real, universe, Buddha, Krishna, Allah, Jesus, Christ, it doesn't matter what you want to call it because it's all love, right? So if you want to
Yeah.
put it out there, however you want to put it out there, ask that. And I've been talking a lot about that lately. I was trying to figure out this a way to talk about Jesus because in my life, it's interesting we're talking about this. I when in the jail cell when all of this transition happened for me, I was reading a book, about a guy who has a similar life. Many of you that have listened to my podcast know about this, but if you haven't, I was just reading the book in the jail cell, and the man surrendered his love to Jesus. Long story short, you can check the earlier episodes to learn about the story. Um, but I spoke those friggin' words into the universe that I surrendered my love to Jesus, and bang, like this frickin' wave of peace and love like I'd never known before just washed through me. Washed, like that's a wonderful way to put it. And then I learn. I become a student of love. Long story short, there's a beautiful episodes in that previous ones. Check that out. But I become a student of love. And I'm like, what is this? Like this Christ consciousness, this understanding of like okay, like no attachments, like all of the teachings of the spiritual teachers. It's like if you want access to these kind of things, all you gotta do is ask. So I love that you said that. How do you see those things? Is that like an all one kind of thing?
The asking or the light,
The teachers, like
the teachers. Oh, okay. Yeah, I feel the essence is all one, like the
yeah,
essence of all of us, we all come from the same source.
yeah,
And and there are beings who came with certain purposes, and they have let's say access to frequencies that not everyone has, and purposes and codes. It doesn't mean they're more or less. No one's more or less, because we're all from the same source. But I feel we all have the same codex. So for me, it's honoring every being, and these beings that have come and they've brought the light that they have, and they've assisted humanity on our evolution. Um, to feel grateful and see them as a pure being of love. However, we all are, and we have something to offer everyone as long as we move into that space and have that willingness to open it up. Do I see them as, yeah, it's all one in the sense that they're actually the same being, or
No, I think you hit it on the head there, the essence, the energy of what they are. Because what they left was, yes, teachings, but they left an energetic imprint on this planet, which was an energetic imprint on human beings. And that, to me, I see it the same way. I never really asked anyone that before, and I respect you. So well, I respect everyone, but I totally wanted to ask you that just because this whole thing came up. And I also, for me, it was the reason I said I struggled to talk about Jesus is because of the way religions portrayed it. But I did some soul searching and I asked myself, okay, what does this thing mean to me? What does Buddha mean to me? What is Allah? What is Buddha? These were individuals that were examples that were here, just like you said, at a time, and they lived a life of purity. And for me, I look to, the examples that we have for the youth to follow, or, for any of us to kind of associate with how we want to live our lives. And, that's when it all connected for me. It was like, you know what? This guy, this guy named Jesus was around a long time ago. He was just a poor guy, a carpenter, and he strolls around, and travels the lands and offers time and energy and wisdom and shares experience with people along the way to help them, in their life. I'm like, what an example. Like, this guy is love, man. He's just distributing love wherever he goes. He walks into a room and he becomes the light because of the energy he portrays. And I thought to myself, I said, you know what? All right, Jesus, you and me are cool. You Buddha, like, if you had this crazy life of all these lavish things and you let go of all those attachments to be somebody that you found within yourself, you're cool too. I like you guys. You know what? I'm going to follow that trajectory. You guys are going to be the people that I look up to. So if I can walk and live my life and lead my life as an example in those footsteps, I'm okay. I love my life right now, and I just kind of put this together. It's been something I've been playing with for, like, it's been on my mind because this thing happened to me, right? By speaking these words, Jesus, and I didn't know how to talk about it, but I'm so happy I do know now. And I just talk about him as a man, no God, no king, no whatever the friggin' book tries to tell people. And that's okay if you're into the book, no problem. But for me, I just found a very real essence in who they were. And I remember them from that place. So I appreciate you saying that, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. And I mean, for me, the biggest thing I feel I can get from my relation to Jesus is that he was doing exactly that. He was just trying to show us who we are because he was already the embodiment of it. And he was just out there going, you too can be the embodiment of love.
Yeah.
And I am the example of it because I found that within myself. And that's what I felt his message was. People would say, oh, if I just touch him, I'll be
Yeah.
blessed and healed. And he's like, that's awesome. But if you just felt that same belief you have about if you touched me, if you touched yourself in
Yes.
that way, you also be healed. So yeah, it's beautiful. And we're so blessed to have these beings and for us all now, if we can just be that in ourselves and shine that out. And then other people, they kind of take notice, you just smile to people, that just goes out and someone smiles back. And you may not even know why, there may not be any words or anything, but something has been exchanged, something, there's a flicker of a light of some kind, of some form that can assist someone to start questioning things, just by being who you are, being that expression of love in the best way you can.
Yeah, I've people have often said to me, they ask my wife, they're like, is he always this positive? Like, is he always smiling and laughing? And she's like, yeah, pretty much all the time. But that's the light, and I've lived in the darkness. I mean, in order to appreciate the light, you have to know the darkness. So suffering is an essential part of life. It actually is. It's all been built off this idea to see if we can alchemize the densest energy possible and turn it into light. Like, I think it's kind of like an experiment to see if humanity can do that as a whole. And I know we can, because the light always evolves through all of the darkness. But it's a really cool way to see suffering. It's like, no, this is your lesson, man. Find that thing that you're trying to overcome, whether it's a controlling mother or a bully at school, or a father that abandoned you, or drug addiction, or whatever it may be. You just find that thing and go, okay, you're trying to teach me something. When you overcome that obstacle, you're like, oh my gosh, that's what this was all about, was just to find the love in the difficult thing. Like, okay, like I can see the love, like my whole journey. I'm so grateful for it now. I mean, 23 years of insane addiction is like, if you would have asked me that, if I would have ever thought that there would have been value in sticking needles in my arm, no, I would have said no. But like, I just alchemized this journey, and you see, like, wow, this is a really beautiful thing. And I mean, you distribute light in the same way, and it's just, again, I have these conversations with people so people can know they can obtain it, you know?
Mm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, what just came into my awareness while you were sharing, and it's all related to what we've been talking about because it's reflective of, for me, life happens for us. You can go through all sorts of experiences, and I've had many, and it wasn't pretty, but actually it was happening for me, as part of my soul expression, my evolution, what I've come here to experience, to master. There's things we come that we already have mastered. There's other things we're here to learn and master, and through that. So with my questioning when I was young, um, my parents, as lovely as they are, they were very supportive parents. They would came to a point where, they always said, "Oh, you just argue. You just want to argue, and you don't care about anyone but yourself." That was the main thing that I remember. You don't care about anyone but yourself. And that kind of created an imprint on me. It was like a program that just run. So, I went out as I got older and I had a degree of being careless. I didn't give a shit about anyone. I just do my own thing and I look after myself, and whatever happens to people, so what. So I started creating that because I believed it. So that's the level of the human experience of this life. So when I went into working deeper and going into past lives, what came up with a friend of mine, we're in a session, that I had a life not that long ago. I came to New Zealand around when it was colonized. And I was in England and I was educated and well off, but I was an alcoholic and a gambler. And I didn't give a shit about anyone. I just wanted to get drunk and gamble and whatever. And so I was kicked out of the family. And at the same time I was kicked out of the family, I came to New Zealand. And because I was educated, I didn't really care about them. I only cared about that I was okay. I had a house, I could go to the pub, I could get my drink, I could do my gambling. So I caused chaos for a lot of people. And so we did a clearing around that. And then I said to my friend, wow, I brought some of that into this life. So what that shows me is because I had some of that in my energy field, my parents saying those things to me was helping me to see what I was creating.
Interesting.
So it takes it to a different level. Then you see that you're a part of that experience. I wasn't just getting told off. I didn't get in, trauma. There was trauma around that, and there was things that happened because of it. But if you go deeper, it was all just playing out as it was meant to be because I chose that as part of being in my energy field. I hadn't learnt the lesson properly, fully, and I come here to experience it. So I learnt the lesson. So those things were said to me, so I would have that experience and therefore do the work.
Were you able to see this like at what stage? Not as a youth, not in your youth, right? Like this, yeah.
No, yeah, not in my
Right.
youth,
I don't
yeah.
want people to be thinking like, how is this guy so aware? No, what is this past life thing he's talking about?
Not in my youth, but the thing with when I was getting bullied by my friends and my best friends, all of my friends jumped on board at times. I had sometimes 30, 40 people create a circle around me and call my name and say, get him, and say names, call me names, big nose and rubby jobby, because my name's different actually, and it's not because of that. It's a whole different story, but but while that was all happening, and I was crying, and sometimes I got beaten up and I had to fight someone or not or whatever, and I had clods thrown at me as I was walking home, and I was tied up by a rope and left, and my teacher found me, and all sorts of things happened. But in between those times, um, my friends would stop or people would stop, and every time I allowed them back into my life. And there's many ways of relating to that. You could say, well, you were just love that victimhood or you didn't get it, and so, and it happened on and off over 3 years. So the last 2 years of primary school, the first year of high school. And what I realized is that I had this innate feeling already that love and forgiveness was a big important part, and to not see people just as how they were acting out and the circumstances that I was experiencing, but there was something else. But I didn't know that. I wasn't conscious of that. But there was some part of me as my essence that was still holding me in that place. So I was able to move through those. And then at a point, I was able to speak up, and then my friends stopped and all that stuff stopped. And I know now that I see people when I go, well, if someone's acting that way, they must be in a world of pain,
Yeah.
and I'm not condoning their action. I'm not saying it's okay, but they need help, and if they are willing to ask, then okay, we can help them. If they're not, then okay, we just need to look after ourselves and see what we need to do in that environment. But on some level, I felt I must have known that in some ways as a youth, going through those experiences. Um, and yeah, that forgiveness. And then on the journey of healing, it was like, oh, I actually have to start forgiving myself.
Right.
'Cause
Yeah,
I
that's
have beautiful forgiveness for others, but the more important is to forgive ourselves.
Yeah, and it's funny, like it's easy for us to do that. It's easy for us to forgive those external for us. I just had a conversation with a friend today, and he was talking exactly about the same thing. He was able to forgive others for things that he'd done to him. And I said, "Well, what about you? Do you have this self-love and self-care for you?" He's like, "I've never had it. Don't even know what it is." And this is something I'm creating something right now with this with humans, and this guide back to self-love and self-care, and trying to create a language around it in my own way, you know what I mean, just to try and give back, to try and help people come back to this thing. And it's funny how we don't have that education in those tools. In like when with the bullying though, I mean, this is a common thing these days. There was a 10-year-old in America that just killed himself due to a bullying thing at school or something like that. For any child anywhere in the world to be, attacked, physically is wild, but emotionally and verbally is the thing that stays. It's actually more
Yes.
impactful than the physical
Yeah.
abuse. Bruises heal, scars, are there in the soul for a long, long time because we don't have education on how to process it. Just for, if there's any parents or anyone who's listening and they've got a child that's being bullied, I think the education that you went through at that time is very valuable. What advice would you offer to first to a child and then to a parent that's experiencing this with their child?
I would say speaking up, you know, asking, trying to find someone that you can tell what's actually truly going on. I feel that that's really important. And then, um, and for the parents also to be able to have conversations about these things, these sensitive things, because my parents were supportive, but there wasn't, I don't recall conversations about it. It was kind of like, we're here, you're okay, yeah, but yeah, go back. Okay, next day, go to school. You need to go to school, okay, turn up again, see what happens today. And it's not like pull them out of school, but it's just about um, able to have those difficult conversations about real, true sensitivities. It's the same thing with suicide and all that. It's not talked about enough, it's too scary, but actually that's what it requires
Yeah.
because you can help people. And then people who are in that place know there's an outlet. And I don't, because there's all this judgment and things around, I'm weak if I show that I'm feeling like I want to commit suicide or whatever and all this,
Yeah.
and especially for us males, because we're told we'll be strong and you don't have feelings and show emotions and all that, but that's total rubbish, so yeah, just being able to reach out, I think is the big one. And just knowing that you're not a bad person. You know, you aren't a bad person. You're a very lovely person. It's often why it happens to you because you are such a lovely person and sensitive, and these kind of people don't know how to manage that kind of energy, and they're angry, and it's easy for them to just start throwing it at someone else.
Yeah, and I think like the value in parents stepping up and being like showing their child love through the conversation to be like, hey, look, we can talk about this openly. The boy who is attacking you every day, he has no one. He has no one in his life to talk to him about what he's doing and what he's feeling. And this is kind of how this is transpiring. Like what you said there is to know that the child that is attacking the child is going through an immense amount of difficulties as well. I had a girl on the podcast not too long ago, and she was telling a story of that where there was a bully at school, and he would just come and fight every day at the playground, and everyone called him out for being the problem. 6 months later, they found out his father was molesting him every night, before he went to bed, and she was just trying to show like the 360 version of everything that's happening. So you're right. The more conversations we can have, regardless of the situation, rather than going in with blame and victim mentality, we just go in with, open hearts and say, hey, we've got two things happening here within two children, and there's a story behind each thing. And rather than, point fingers and want to kill each other, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's speak our truths and find the truth. And yeah, that's the thing that, oh, geez, with these youth, like pretending to be somebody they're not, and these filters and these algorithms, I just feel like, guys, never more in your life. There's never been a pivotal more time for you to practice speaking your truth at every opportunity because, the world is trying to program that it's okay to be somebody you're not, and it's okay to pretend that you have it all together. And it's just, like you say, completely wrong.
Yeah, no, beautiful. And I really love what you said there. We don't know what other people's person is going through. That's a thing. You could be anywhere in the supermarket and see, oh, that person's, they can't move their trolley out of the way, or they just don't care. They're doing this or whatever, but you have no idea what's happening for them, and that's where when we step into our heart, we can have compassion, and we can not, go about life looking externally. Just knowing that you're in love with yourself and life is beautiful, and just going about your business and supporting yourself so you can support others. And then you won't notice these things, or you'll just see them in a different way. And actually, maybe instead of going, oh, that person's acting in a way that's not okay, they're taking up the whole aisle or whatever, you can just stop and go, oh, well, actually, this moment I'll go around the other way. I'll come back to this aisle, or, I'll say, hello, how are you going, or something, yeah, just respond to it in a different way.
Yeah, and that's that light language, that's the language of love. It's just love for self understands that we're all on our own journey and experiencing things differently. And unless we get to know the chapters in someone's story, like, I mean, there's no sense in being reactive, and there's no sense in being judgmental, because who are we to do that, Like, if we tune this instrument right here to be highly receptive and understanding with empathy and compassion towards those around us, like, your life is just so much lighter. And it's something we've been programmed to do is to judge each other and judge ourselves, and this is why we practice it. And to just know that you can obtain that, I mean, for some people, when I have conversations with them, it's just so foreign to this light language, this love, for self, because we've just been led so far away from it. But it's simple acts of kindness that help grow it and allow you to practice
Mm.
it. I like how you said,
Yeah, and also feeding it, like when you do something good, acknowledge it, talk about it, say, pat yourself on the back, like we're so easy to notice the bad things or the things we don't like, or all these things, and because we're consumed by it. If you're living an everyday life, it's just constantly in your world all the time. That's how it's run. When you do something well, or you have a gut feeling about something, and then you don't necessarily see it in anything else, but then it plays out, and then you go, oh, I had a gut feeling about that. Really acknowledge it, really embody it into your being and celebrate it,
yeah.
because that feeds that innate nature, that intuitive self more. and you can create more, even it doesn't matter how big or small it is, the tiniest thing, it doesn't matter. Just as long as you give it some energy, it can feed on that, and grow.
Yeah, the practice of awareness. And also with myself, even when I do things that I'm not happy with, or, I make mistakes because I make mistakes all the time. But when I make a mistake, oh, I catch myself right away. And I'm like, because I know what I've done that I don't like. And it's okay. It's okay to do things we don't like because we're evolving to the person that we do like. I just allow it. I go, okay, I said that because sometimes I talk too much. But yeah, I'll say something and I'll be like, oh, I didn't like the way I delivered that, right? Like I used to go at, I'll give you an example. I used to go at religion pretty hard. That was my thing. Like, religion, they're controlling everyone and rah, rah, rah. But it's like, man, like that doesn't work. It doesn't get through to people. So we can do this in a different way. And I actually got better at not doing it by seeing the mistakes and honoring the mistakes I was making, but learning from them at the same time. So having it be two part, like commending myself when I was growing, because I love that, but then also seeing myself making those mistakes and being like, okay, this is okay because this is going to make you better.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And also, that kind of mentality is that one of separation. It's like I look at the government here. I don't agree with the government's choices. I don't align with them, but they're not separate from me.
Mm,
That's the thing. There's no separation. They're still a being expressing themselves, however way they want to express themselves, and they're a body, or and then within that, these individuals. And it's just knowing that actually, whatever I look at them in whatever way is showing me something about myself. And again, it's not like condoning people's actions or being naive or ignorant to them. It's just noticing how I'm relating to whatever that situation is. And often, if it's in that kind of way, it's just showing me I'm seeing them in separate. And when you start moving into the heart, and it's just finding your place within that. Okay, what feeds you? How do you want to express yourself? And what doesn't resonate, then fine. When you go to a course and there's a teacher and they're teaching awesome things and there's some things that don't resonate with you, then that's fine. You just leave those.
yeah.
And if you have a reaction to them, then you go, well, actually, it's not that I don't resonate with them. It's just that I'm not ready to look at that thing within myself. And that's all that's showing me, because life is constantly a direct reflection of ourselves.
Mm.
you know that's, for me, is a huge tool, and my perception is my greatest teacher.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Like, I used to put a lot of time and energy into trying to expose establishments for what they were doing, and I quickly saw, like, this is going nowhere. I mean, just
Mhm.
like you said, these establishments and these individuals that are making up these establishments have spent a very long time creating these systems to work in a certain favor. Like, there's no effect that I can have on this as a whole in this moment because it's taken 2,000 years to get this way. So I valued my energy so much that it was like, what a waste of time that is. I'm just tired all the time and I'm not really going to do anything. So I was able to, yeah, perceive that differently myself and really self-reflect on that in itself. Like, why am I angry with all this? Of course, like if ego is sort of the reality that we're all living in. We're living in an egotistical version of life right now, created by individuals that have created a system that works for a very small amount of people. So, of course, that reality is being perceived by those that are affected by that and that lose all the time and energy in the consumption of things that they cannot change. But I live in the same reality of those people. And because I was able to disconnect from that, putting all my time and energy into things I couldn't change and started putting it into myself, oh, I live in the same reality as that, but it doesn't affect me anymore. Just like you were saying, and
Yeah.
that's important for people to understand.
Yeah, also, yeah, totally. And also, it's condemning. So it's actually telling someone that you know how they should be, which is no different to what these bodies are doing.
Right. Yeah.
Just because you think I'm coming from a good place, or it's about love, and they're not love. But if you're condemning them, then yeah, you're saying they should be doing what you're doing, but if they don't have that conscious awareness, or they're not at that place, or they don't have that understanding and understanding, insight, however you want to express it, they're not going to be there. Just like you and I know on our journey, we didn't have the conscious awareness that we have now, but we're not going to condemn ourselves. We're going to look at our journey and reflect back and go, okay, well, it was like this, and this is the purpose, and all the rest of it. So, you know, the thing is I ask myself, is do I know, or anyone knows, what conscious evolution is meant to look like? How is it meant to be expressed through the thousands of years of humanity being on Earth? Does anyone actually really know what that is? And there's a big why of why it is, and you can go down a rabbit hole for many years with all that. So for me, it's just like I don't feel I know what conscious evolution looks like. So how do I assist conscious evolution to live in harmony with myself, within humanity, within the planet, and the environment that I live in, the globe as a whole? What can I do within myself so I can create this world I believe is how it's meant, let's say, meant to be, or let's say in that full expression of love and light? And I don't necessarily believe that there isn't any shadow in that, because we live in the dualistic world in these paradigms, And as a multidimensional being, we live in other realms at the same time. So we access different frequencies at different times. But here on Earth, it's a very different frequency and a different expression. So we have to honor that. It's just like you walk into a room, a lot of people say, oh, I walk into a dark room and I flick the switch and the light comes on. To see the dark's gone. And they finish their story there. And it's like, no, you find harmony within your light and your shadow as this uh, evolution and unity of a conscious expression. You'll be able to be more harmonious with everything within your world. And that may change. And with what I've found with my journey, I have insights and I have ways of relating to things. And at some point, they'll go, oh, I don't feel that way. I don't have that, because I've come to a different space within conscious evolution within myself. I've come to a higher frequency. It's like working on ourselves as well. Um, you work on something and then it goes away and you don't have it for a couple of years. And then you experience it again. And a lot of people go, oh, I'm back here again. And it's like, no, 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 no. You're moving forward. If you're still doing the work and you're on a conscious evolution, you've come to a frequency where you haven't been able to work on it because you were never at that frequency, but now you are, and it's in your field at that frequency. So it presents itself. So it's a blessing. It's like, woohoo. Okay, I get to clean this out of my system so I can even go to a higher frequency and bring in more light and more love and be more expressive and more aligned to my true purpose, my soul mission that I'm here for.
Yeah, I looked at like Egypt and how they viewed the weighing of the heart, if a light heart was achieved, you were able to pass through. So when I perceive that and I think about that, because Egypt to me was a place of, conscious development, conscious growth. Like, I mean, these individuals were tuned into frequencies and vibrations, and they created schools and, surrounding these topics, which I just find so fascinating. But when I perceive it for myself in the current moment, in my current timeline, in my reality, I just looked at that and I was like, okay, Justin, we got to move through this trauma, man. We got to move through these dense energies that are holding us back. Because to me, that was what was weighing on the heart, was things that that were trying to keep me in this low vibrational state. So of the darkness or the shadow work is what was there to teach me about the evolution through it, so the appreciation of it, so I could obtain that light from a dark situation, because we have duality, like you say, just because you walk into a room and you flick the light switch on, the dark is not gone. It's just out of your perception, right? So that's a really great concept of how to look at it and how to move through it and how to appreciate it, because people often do not want to face or speak their truth regarding difficult situations like bullying or, physical abuse or abandonment, neglect, whatever it may be. It's because they're ashamed of it. But it's like, no, that's your teacher. That's the thing that's here to help move you forward, help make you lighter. It's weighing you down so you can break free from it and become lighter. And that high vibrational state and that frequency, like you say, is what we're tuning into. And when you hit that state and you are lighter from taking the emotional baggage off, man, like the dense world is not dense anymore because we create the density. And yeah, that's something else I was going to touch on. Like you said, this whole thing with Jesus with me, I was, the church separates us from God, right? And we are told and led to believe that we are all made in, I see it as his and her image, divine masculine energy, divine feminine energy. So his and her, if God is the creator and we were created in his and her image, well, then that makes us creators because we are a piece of this thing called God or prime creator. So if God is inside of me, then I should turn my belief system within me because I carry God, and I should create the reality that I want to live in externally from me. So this puts all of my belief and power back into me. It doesn't take it away from me and tell me that I have to give money for it and say, just pray a little harder and you're going to get what you need. But it's like, well, wait a minute. Yeah, prayer is great, but you better believe in something. And if you're going to believe in anything, you better believe in yourself and find a community of individuals that are believing in themselves as well and navigating the journey. So I liked how you were saying that. It just made me think of that when you were putting those things together. So I appreciate that.
Mm. Yeah, and it's good that what you share as well, like I am a nomadic person and I always put it out there wherever I go, my vibe tribe is there, and that's the thing. We're not alone. We don't, yeah, we might think there's rare people, or not many around or whatever, and we go to places, but there's always like-minded people everywhere you go. You just have to be open for it, And the other day, I just went to the garage and I talked with the customer service guy, and he was doing something. He was a bit, let's say, um, not really present, and the other tenant lady was kind of, you could see her kind of judging him and questioning how he was responding, and I was watching that play out, and I was on a bit of a mission, and I watched myself go, oh, just kind of get what I need and I'll go, and then I was like, hang on a minute, and then I started to have a conversation with them, and within a minute we started talking about sacred geometry.
What? Wow. They were in tune with
Yeah,
sacred geometry?
yeah, yeah, and he
Nice.
was reading what's the book? Course of Miracles. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he draws sacred geometry and things like that. So we had this beautiful conversation, and shared energy and insights and everything, And that's just a classic example of my human self going, oh, well, this guy's been a bit whatever, and
Yeah.
I just want to go. And then my soul going and feeling going, well, hang on, what's possible here? What can happen from this person? Maybe I don't know who they are. Maybe they are my vibe tribe, and not even asking that question, but just having that openness of engaging in that. And then even at the beach the other day, I was walking and I looked out the ocean every now and again, and it was like, oh, every time I go there, it'd be cool to see a whale and da da da. And so I'd look every now and again each time, and I hadn't seen a whale. And I went up to this place and I found these fossils on these rocks, and it was amazing. I was just buzzing out, and took photos and had bliss time. And then I was walking back, and there was a couple who were fishing when I first arrived, and I hardly ever see anyone on this beach. And then as I started walking back, they started to leave, and there's only one path onto the beach, and it's kilometers long. It's huge, massive. And I was like, oh, it's interesting they're coming back, and I noticed there was a part of me going, oh, that funny people, they probably have nothing to do with, and we're not anything that relates to each other. That was my initial feeling. And then I was like, oh, it's interesting how they're coming back at the same time. I wonder what conversations we could have or what we could share with each other. And then, so I got there a little bit before them and I stopped and I waved and said hello. And then they started coming closer and, hi, how you going? And, oh, yeah. And hey, how'd you go with fishing? Yeah, good. And da 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 talking. And they said, did you see the whale? And I said, what? And they said, there's a whale out there. We've been watching the whale. And I said, no, I didn't see the whale. And I looked and they said, oh, it's just coming along every so often. And then it would blow a big spurt of water up as it rose up out of the ocean and then it would go down. And so, and there it was, like just a few hundred meters off the beach. It was
Cool,
like,
very
oh,
cool. But that's
yeah.
amazing. I love that you just shared that because it just, I really hope people are encouraged by things that we would typically walk away from because, we don't want to put ourselves out there or we don't want to open our hearts. It's like everything is connected. Everything is an opportunity for you to grow. Like every single thing. And I mean, if you can shape your perception to start conceiving these realities, it's like, okay, like, what do you mean? This gas attendant has something to teach me? Maybe, like, you know what I mean? And even if there's that connection isn't the one, you're practicing getting ready for the connections that do. And you balance yourself. And you really, what you're doing is you're creating an awareness to tap into your intuition because your intuition was going off like crazy there, which I think
Yeah,
is
yeah.
just is beautiful. And like that happened. Oh man, for me, I love the whales. And I just love how that man, I'm just so grateful that you shared that because it's such a beautiful thing for people to see and to really start seeing like brothers and sisters and opportunities all as a way for us to grow and learn about each other and share in this beautiful, beautiful experience. And yeah, man, that's freaking cool, man. That's
Yeah,
really
it
cool
is.
that that happened.
It's very cool. I was so grateful. I was just like buzzing and I went and just sat on the beach and watched it for ages and tuned into it. And I was just like, wow, such a blessing. And then actually when I came back, I think it was that trip here, there was a hawk. I came around the corner and there was a hawk sitting on the ground and it was eating something, but just on the side of the road. And normally they would just fly off straight away, but it
Yeah.
stopped and I slowed down and it just stayed there. And it was only like 2 meters from my car, and I was in a 80K area or something like that. And and I was like, oh, it's fascinating. And as I drove past and I watched it, and it's interesting that it's sitting there. And then I looked forward, and just as I looked forward, one came across on top of my windscreen and flew above my head. And
Beautiful.
then I looked up, and straight away I got the message as above, so below, that you're totally connected with the all possibilities in this realm,
Yeah.
and it was like, and that was just another message of,
Yeah.
okay, just connect with people, just be engaged in life, be in your body, and interact with other humans. You just don't know what's possible because it
I
always possible.
And I think it's so great that, you share that in the vehicle as well. Most people, they get in a car and they end up at a destination. They have no idea how they arrived at the destination because their mind was in the past or in the future. So, these balancing acts, we'll say, this practice of balancing within your life and creating these awarenesses and moving through these blocks that you have, like they open you up to see the world in such a magical way. And if you don't have communities of individuals to practice this with, like, I am obviously here. I give my life for this. I don't have all the answers, but I certainly have a community of individuals that I'm open to share with. And like Jacob, like we're open. This is what we do, and we just try to be the example in life. And man, I just want to thank you for all the work that you do just for the planet because we didn't go too much into that, but I know what you're doing for this place. And we'll have Jacob back on because I want to talk more about nature with you and really kind of show people what love can do, what consciousness can do, or the awareness of what we're capable of doing and injecting that back in nature. And then nature is such a beautiful giver itself of all these wonderful things. So there are definitely people like Jacob out there that are doing things behind closed, RV windows and just in nature, like really supporting the whole system and or supporting an evolution of the system by injecting love back into it. So, brother, I appreciate you sharing this story, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I really appreciate our connection and having me on board here. Yeah, I really appreciate it. And I love sharing as well. It's I have so many amazing people in my life that have assisted me along my path, and it is important to have people in our world where we can reach out and have these conversations, and it just feeds more and more and more. So yeah, totally happy for anyone to reach out as well, and thank you for creating the space so people like myself or whoever wishes to come on board and share and put that out because it is a ripple effect, energetically. Even if people don't listen to it, it can touch someone, and we're expressing the world that we wish to create, and for me it's like we can create it as though it's already here, because in everything's energy and we can feel it even if you're not looking at it, but you can feel it as though you are looking at it. And that's the big shift, and yeah, so grateful for you and your journey, like massive, and amazing where you are now with it. It's really inspirational and such an honor, brother.
Thanks, man. Yeah, well, I'll touch on real quick what you said there is like, yeah, I stopped creating for other people. At first, when you get into this, like, I got no clue what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I'm just doing things. But you get caught up in these, like, oh, views and how many subscribers and likes and comments and all this stuff. And I was listening to this old guy on Facebook, and he had this wonderful lady on there one time, and they were talking some mad truths, like just wonderful things. And I was like, dude, this needs to be broadcasted out to all these people. And he's like, Justin, we don't do this for nobody. We just do this. If people connect to it and it finds them, then they were meant to find it. And I was like, wow, man, like you are a legend. Like, thank you for that information. I'm so grateful I came into this room and it was really beautiful. So yeah, just like you say, I mean, I'm eternally grateful for the conversation and the connection. And I look forward to as I expand across the globe, spending some time in New Zealand and getting to be over there with you
Sure.
and find these magical islands with birds and listen to that song because that's something I'm thinking about.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
amazing space, New Zealand. It really is a blissful country to be born in and be here living in. I've traveled well and I love Canada. I've been to Canada, Whistler, and yeah, through the Rocky Mountains and all that. And but yeah, it's something really special about New Zealand and the Lemurian energies here and Muir, and yeah, there's a lot to be said about this place. First light, we're first light of the world. It's something, says something about it.
yeah, and just the native presence, like, and when I say native, I just mean um, the old stories that maybe are held within that land or maybe that are held within those trees. Like, I guess when I think about it, that's just what came to my mind right now. Is I feel like there's something there in that like the way it's contained, if earth and humans and organic matter is a vessel for knowledge, then New Zealand is holding something. It's the youngest country that basically means it wasn't colonized and completely destroyed by this modern society. Certainly it's been affected by it, absolutely, but I feel like there's a lot of the people that I meet from New Zealand, like they're on a they're not different than anyone else, but like they're different. You know what I mean? They're yeah, like I mean that's a way to say it. Like they have different ideologies and understandings, and because of the way it's closed off and because of the way it kind of has to be a community, and it keeps these old or ancient vibrations that continue to flow through people alive. It's not really obstructed by this thing that's consuming the West. But I don't want to just say the West. I mean, Australia is the same as us, right? Like they've gone a way of their own as well. So it's definitely
Yeah, they are shifting, starting to come around more and more. They're starting to acknowledge the indigenous people a lot more. Yeah, it's still a process. Um,
yeah, we can definitely
yeah,
have episodes about colonization, what happened to the indigenous
oh,
within
yeah.
this country. And I actually do
It's-
want to start having that. So if you've got knowledge on that over in your part, I'd love to have conversations about that with you.
Yeah, for sure. I have some, like Waitaha were living here when the Māoris come, and that's, there's people who know about that. There's many people who don't, and it's definitely not acknowledged in mainstream in our country. It's not part of our history at all, and it's huge. It's a huge part of our history and a really, really special body of people and from many cultures. Yeah, no weapon. Yeah, living in harmony.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great topic for us to discuss next time. So people get ready for that. We're going to talk about some real people doing some real things with real energy that I believe is being awakened inside of us again today. Because I know when I first met you, though, Jacob, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy has a warrior spirit. And there was a bunch of synchronicities that happened that day. Jacob and I met at a full moon group meditation.
Crystal grid gathering.
Crystal Grid Gathering, held by Ada Andromeda, which she has an earlier episode in the podcast list with me. Wonderful episode. But when I met you that day, so many things aligned because you had your presence and you had your moment. And you spoke what you spoke, and I didn't even know you. It was the first time I ever saw you. Immediately, I was like connected to you, and I was like, this guy's got a warrior spirit. But then I was like, I have been going over this warrior spirit in my mind for quite some time because I believe it's this thing that belongs to the First Nations, but it isn't this thing that belongs to the First Nations, which is here in Canada are Indigenous. They were able to cultivate and create this warrior spirit with such presence and with such authenticity and conviction that it was a part of them. They walked in this warrior spirit. And then when I met you, I was like, okay, it's something that lives within you. You don't have to be a First Nations to carry the warrior spirit. Anyone can have it. So that
Mhm.
was really beautiful for me because it was like, all right, because I like that. I like that way that you walk and that presence that you have, and First Nations convey it very, very well here in Canada. And I think for a population of individuals who have been completely oppressed and genocides that have taken place in this country, they are still stand tall and stand for what they believe in. And I think it's just a beautiful thing. So you're doing the same thing. So I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, totally. Thank you, brother. Thank you. It's a lot to do with dragon energy as well. Yeah.
Okay, we get into dragon energy next time.
Yeah.
Much love, brother. I appreciate your time and for you being here.
You too, brother. Yeah, go well, my man. Yeah. Love it. Love to you all.